when we were making Black Panther Wakanda Forever, we were looking for a foil for Shuri to have in the film, somebody who was like her, but we also wanted that person to be younger so that Shuri could kind of mentor that person to just kind of show the growth that she had experienced between the two films. And we looked at publishing, we looked at a lot of options, and then Riri came right to the forefront. And we actually had met Dominique Thorne in the casting process when we were looking for who was going to play Shuri way back in 2017, and she really impressed us then. We ended up going with Letitia for a lot of reasons, but one of the big ones was that we didn't know that Dominique was ready yet. She was still in college herself. I think she might be like 19 years old, when she was auditioning and doing Kim Reeves with Chadwick Boseman. But she stayed in the back of our mind. She gave a really impressive performance in our film Judas and the Black Messiah. And when it came time for that role, we just kind of called her up to see if she was interested. She came through, had great chemistry with Letitia, and kind of killed it, And a lot of audiences responded well to her and her moments, and we knew that there was a big history of her in publishing, big, even though it was relatively recent compared to other Marvel characters. She had a big following, and we thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to really explore her world and to make a different type of show for the MCU.
As Ironheart gets underway, we find Riri having finished her, quote, internship, end quote, in Wakanda, and in dire straits in and around her MIT labs. She's created an explosion in the lab and is facing the consequences when we land on her in the show.
Well, we have a tech versus magic theme in the show, and obviously Riri comes from the tech background of everything. So she's very, the way she thinks is very like 1 + 1 = 2, and that's just the way it is. And with magic, 1 + 1 could equal infinity. It could equal apples. we don't know, And so for her, I think it's not just getting away from her being tech only, but it's also getting away from her things being black and white and only having to be one way or in the other. That sometimes things can be a little bit in between. So of her, accepting magic in this way and being witness to magic in this way is also a way of her kind of opening up her thought process.
One of the things I'm most excited about is for audiences to get an introduction to the character of the Hood, aka Parker Robbins. I think that Chinaka did an incredible job bringing this character to screen. He's very mysterious, charismatic, played by the great Anthony Ramos, and he's formed a community around himself of a lot of other folks that maybe would be looked at as outcasts or rejects in society, but they've made a place for themselves and kind of made a family. It's almost a little bit of the MCU Fast and Furious. You know what I mean? A little bit of Dom Toretto. And it's just really it's really great to see a foil to Riri who actually recognizes the potential in her. But the whole time you watching, you wondering if he's exploiting that potential. And that's something that happens. Like when you have an incredible gift. But you in a circumstance or in a place where it's a lot of desperation, that gift, those talents, they can make you a target. As much as those things can be an opportunity for you, that could be an opportunity for somebody else to exploit you. And the show does a great job of showing that. But it's great chemistry between the actors.
Anthony Ramos brings so much to the character. He's got a background as an athlete, and it's a very physical role in a lot of ways. He makes wonderful physical decisions, and the first thing we shot was actually him doing yoga. So I feel like he brings just like a wonderful fluency with his body. I think he also brings he's a really, really smart person just on its own, and his time in and around Hamilton has made him, like, his choices are so smart, so succinct, and so full. Also, he's real. He's like one of the realest, nicest, best people, and he brought his enthusiasm for being on set every day was contagious. There was no complaint from him the entire time. He focused really on making his acting better and better with each take, and appreciating and acknowledging the cast and crew around him, most of whom were women. And so, Anthony brought his best to the project from our very first, we had a dinner at my house, to the very last moment on wrap. He brought his everything.
Riri decides to join Parker's crew because the goal is to get this suit made. And she has tried all the ways that she can figure out how to get it made. And this is the opportunity that presents itself. And I think the same thing happens to a lot of us, where like we do try to do things the way that is the quote unquote right way. But the right way doesn't always choose us. The right way doesn't always accept us. And so she finds someone who does, who can pay her cash money, and that money is what's going to help her make the thing that's going to make the world a better place.
For me and for so many of the women on set, the project allows us to enjoy a much fuller life as a filmmaker, hopefully, going forward. It is my greatest pride of this project, of how many women came into a role and will be able to level up, not just in terms of title, but in terms of salary after our show is done. Like, we made real jobs for real people, and I am ecstatic about the fact that from now on, it's gonna say director Angela Barnes, like, period. That, like, the woman who, Shanika Terry, who ran our hair department, like, sat shoulder to shoulder with 6 other Black female heads of department. That doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen in a resounding way outside of the space of Marvel. So I think the commitment is baked in. We all have more opportunity on the other side of this.
And it's not like they're just bringing us in and only doing a character that's a Black female character. I think that for me, it meant a lot just to see other people who looked like me in the room. For Ironheart, it meant a lot that not just that the character looked like me and the people in the room looked like me, but that there was a rest that you don't have to put up that the code switching or wondering if something you say is going to have to be explained. We can understand certain things about the culture. You could just say it, and everybody understood what you're talking about, and knew that they were important. Knew that, yes, it's important that we have mom sewing a silk lining into her helmet, and why that's a little Easter egg that we can throw in there that, people should know about, or know if they notice it, they'll know what's going on. If you know, you know, and if you don't, you still enjoy the show. But to me, it was just a beautiful thing. To me, I remember hopping on the Zoom with Cree Summer.
That's my favorite moment of production.
That was my favorite moment of production, because she didn't really know who. She just knew she was meeting the directors and the producers. So she hopped on. She was like,
and it was like we all jumped on the call at different times. So I was actually on the call first, because it's me. I was sitting waiting in the car, and then Zinzi Kugler jumped on the screen, and then Angela, and then Cree, and then Sam. And Cree, just watching Cree, who's worked in the industry she's worked in VO, she's worked in front of camera, she's worked forever in 2 countries at least. And she's like, I've never seen this before. And we had all said we'd never seen it either. And then we said, great, let's do the work. So I think the commitment was very clear, and it didn't feel just like mouth service. It felt like a commitment top to bottom. And honestly, them hiring me helped me to ensure that we kept those values throughout. Mm-hmm. It was one of the hallmarks of our time.
Yeah, Ironheart is a show where the lines, between what's fiction and what's real are very blurred. In that it's a show about a young, brilliant Black woman who just needs access, and that was happening behind the cameras the entire time. These women were great before this show, but the show will serve as an introduction to audiences about their skill, their talent, what they want to say about the world, and I think that that audiences are going to take to it like water in the desert, to be honest,
I would describe Riri Williams as an ambitious young female genius attempting to become the best version of herself. And I think in the first couple episodes, we are seeing her unpack everything that's happened to her over the past not only months but years, and really needing to reconcile the truth of how she feels about all of that in order to take some of the larger steps into this Ironheart mantle that she's realizing she might have just created for herself.
Did I explore the character of Parker Roberts in the comics, and who is he? I think, yeah. I mean, Parker in the comics was from New York. Obviously, his name was Parker, so he
kept that.
Definitely we didn't come from the same, background per se, but the same powers, right? That ambition, right? Him being a petty thief, and he in the comics he was doing it for his family, and things like that. And I think that we took those elements, but we added a little more, to it. I feel like we had the opportunity to expand on this character, and then with changing the setting from it being in New York to Chicago, we had a whole new set of opportunities. Where is he gonna be from? Oh, let's make him from Humble Park. Like, what was his mom? What was his dad like? Where are his parents now? Like, and again, like, yeah, was he stealing? Okay, sure. Was it still for his family? Like, all these things that we, again, the comics, and then we kept the powers. The powers are the same, right? He's shooting magic bullets. He's levitating. He's going invisible, but. We take it, he's got to hold his breath to go invisible, right? He works on his breath. You see that over the course of the show. Like, just getting to really like work on character traits to make him a full person. Anyway, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, we dove into the comics, but then, just took it a step further. What they have in common, I think they're all, Parker's crew, the best way to describe them, they're a group of misfits, right? They're a group of people who, were cast out in their own communities, right? But they were all very gifted at, what they did or, do, right? They still do. And I think that, when their communities, kind of ruled them out, Parker was able to see the potential in all of them. And he was also able to see the potential in, and I wouldn't say he took advantage of their desperate, of their situations, right? Sometimes, when there's like a, right, if there's someone hurting, right, it can become very easily or a little easier for somebody to persuade someone like, hey, look, I'm your answer, and there's a little bit of that with him. But I think he genuinely believes like I can be the answer to your questions in your life, and if you come join me, I'll show you, the same way I was lost and I'm not anymore, you can be that way as well. And I think he fully believes that. And I think he believes that when it comes to Riri as well, when he meets her, and that's his MO, right? Like I got it all together, like, don't you want to be like me? I came from a similar situation as all of you, but look at me, we could all be this together,
Dominic, why does Riri decide to team up with Parker and his crew?
I mean, Riri decides to team up with Parker and the crew really because of everything that you just said. Like, he is selling her on this dream that all the questions that she has and everything she's worried about, he's found the solution. He's asking the exact same questions that I was asking myself just moments ago, and here he is. He's got the money, he's got the spot, he's righting the wrongs that were done in his community. For a lot of the major concerns that Riri is grappling with and wanting to unpack, really, so that she can just move on and be who she knows she can be and do in the world what she believes she's here to do. He is offering the quick solution to getting over the hump. And for Riri, it's just like, well, all I need is this one thing. And if I get that one thing, it's a means to an end. And Parker does a great job of selling her on the dream.
Who's Natalie, and how does she appear in Ironheart?
Natalie is Riri's best friend. She's her companion, her ride or die, childhood best friend, who unfortunately she loses to gun violence in her community. Both Natalie and her father were taken from Riri and their family pretty sooner than expected. And in the course of the show, she reappears, not intentionally by any means, but in her reappearance, she reappears through a bit of Riri's ambition and wanting to push the bounds and you know, seeing a possibility and seeing a solution to something that hasn't yet been done. Riri definitely has established that she's okay with taking that risk, and so she takes the risk, and in the process Natalie returns and starts demanding that she answers some pretty tough internal questions.
At first, he doesn't quite understand. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand why it's even being given to him. But I think that once he starts to realize that power and he feels that for the first time, it's like getting addicted to anything, right? That makes you feel good or makes you feel powerful. Like it's that, even if it's not good for you, it's that thing where it's just like, man, I know this isn't good for me, but this is too good, or this is too powerful. This is, I can't let this go. I don't even, and then it's like the more you do it, or the more you become attached to that thing, the more it becomes wrapped up with your identity, and the harder it is to let it go, and the harder it is to release it. And I think that he becomes addicted to that power. He becomes addicted to that hood, and rightfully so. I mean, it gives him things that he didn't have before. It gives him a leg up that he never had in his whole life. And why would he want to let that go? Even in spite of it hurting him. What I'm really excited about, what we've been hearing a lot, is that people feel like these characters are really human. Like especially when it comes to Ironheart, and it comes to the way Dom played that character, and her being this. People keep saying the word flawed, and I think that's very true for us. As like, we're humans. We are very, very flawed. And, and I think that is one of the best things about her character, right? Like, at the center of this story is a woman she's flawed. She's searching. She's, like all of us, right? We all flawed and searching for something. And, we all experience tragedy and trauma, and we all react to it for better or for worse, right? And we all deal with it or don't deal with it, right? And we see the positive and negative effects of that, and it's really I think it's really cool to see a character in this kind of world who is a superhero go through that, and then on top of that, in Chicago, played by Dom, she brings this level of swag, she brings this level of flavor to this character that that takes it over the top, that makes it extra special, and then I think it trickles down to the rest of the group.
I think he hit the nail on the head. I mean, everything that I hear Anthony saying is, I really do think that that's baked into every nook and cranny of the show. Every character gives the opportunity for that, for you to cling on to something and feel seen in it. So yeah, I echo all of that.